Yes, folks, I am back. I have food in my stomach. I am drinking green tea because I had to calm down from that BS that happened in the last stream. I just got an alert from YouTube saying my thing is ineligible for monetization, so I'm gonna have to go fix that after the show. But I need to talk about Chicago politics.
Yes, of course.
Chicago politics. If Chicago can get on a similar accord and get on code, black people can run this country. But I'm going to
Yeah.
let Afro talk about that
Okay.
tonight. I'm going to let Afro talk about that tonight. But let's begin with the comedy because after the comedy, we got to get serious. So, how are you, brother? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing? And thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. I'm great. It was sunny today. Any day above ground, live it. So, he has a basketball team in his city called the Chicago Bulls. 2 3-peats. Shout out to them. They stopped the Knicks and Patrick Ewing and John Starks from getting the championship. But that's okay. So they brought the 3-peat to the 90s. They did, and then the Lakers copied them. But Chicago is also known for another 3-peat, folks. They are known for another 3-peat. And Afro, I'm sure, knows about this, but family, we're going to share this with you on the screen. That's right, folks. Chicago this year has got another 3-peat. They rank number 1 in corruption. And if you know anything about Chicago, it's a very corrupt city, it's a very corrupt state. So it says for the 3rd year in a row, Chicago is America's most corrupt city, and Illinois is the 3rd most corrupt state, according to an annual report from the University of Illinois at Chicago. So they told on themselves. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
The report, co-authored by University of Illinois at Chicago professor, former 44th Ward Alderman, I am not saying that man's name, Mr. Simpson, because I do not feel like saying pause, is based on an analysis of the public corruption statistics published by the U.S. Department of Justice. The sheer number and political stature of the Illinois elected officials and business leaders who were implicated, indicted, or convicted in 2020 is staggering. Afro, what is happening in your city?
What's happening in my city is just the normal. This is how Chicago's been for the last several decades now. And Torian brought it up really since Al Capone. During that time, the Chicago politicians and the Chicago Police Department, they were all corrupt at that time. That's why a lot of the mafia back during that time, during the days of Al Capone, that's why Al Capone and the criminals and mafia were able to get away with the crimes that they were able to get away with, because they were buying off politicians and they were buying off police officers. So nothing has really changed. It's not like anything is new. Now that the corruption is really starting to get out to the surface, because it was kind of hush hush. Only a few people who are local to Chicago knew about it. But Chicago, every bit of the way, every bit of corruption that you could have in a city is Chicago. Chicago's been corrupt for many, many years now.
Yes, yes. Which sucks because it's such a great city. Beautiful. I love y'all's skyline.
Oh
Love
yeah,
y'all's
it's
skyline.
beautiful. It is.
Yeah, but let's continue. In 2020, there were 22 public corruption convictions in the Northern District of Illinois, which includes all of Chicago and the northern third of Illinois. A slight drop for the 26 convictions recorded in 2019. God, no. They were even scamming during the scamdemic. That's crazy. Despite the fact that the coffee venereal disease scamdemic nearly shut down state and federal courts, 2020 was one of the most significant 12 months in the startling saga of political and public corruption in Chicago and Illinois, Simpson said. Well. Hey, Uncle Thunderbird. What do you have to say about this? Uncle Thunderbird. You quiet. You was outside celebrating the Sky winning the WNBA chip with 400 people. Ooh, former Cook County Commissioner Jeff Tobolsky pleaded guilty to accepting more than $250,000 in bribes and resigned from the board and as mayor of suburban McCook. Now, how far is that from Chicago?
That's not far at all. I'm not sure if you want to give me like a distance. Cook County is, because Cook County does count in Chicago. There's Cook County. There's like, it is a part of Chicago, and then it kind of stretches to like the outskirts of Chicago on like the south side. So I'm not familiar with his name, but if it's in Cook County, that means it's like right outside Chicago. So that's probably about like 30 minutes or so away, if that.
Okay.
Because Cook County
Uh,
is only so big. It's a
right.
bit of Cook County is outside of Chicago, so it can only be about 30 minutes outside of the actual city.
Okay. Cool. In addition, federal prosecutors charged Tobolsky's chief of staff at the county board, Patrick Doherty, with 3 counts of bribery in connection to Doherty's position as a sales agent for Safe Speed. And Safe Speed is their red light program, red light camera program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We got a former mayor, took a $5,000 bribe. He got a year and a day. And what is going on in Chirac? And I saw that tweet you put up about the trenches, about the
Yeah.
trenches. I saw that.
Uh, First off, and that's one thing that I don't like, and I feel like too often people glorify like the crime in Chicago. People glorify like the trenches in the hood in Chicago. I've had people tell me, "Hey, where is O Block? Where is this? Where is 63rd?" Because they hear rappers rap about it, and I'm like, you don't want to go to
Right.
63rd. You don't want to go to O Block. You don't. People from Chicago, they stay away from that type of stuff. I've personally have seen real life, and I'm gonna be censored on YouTube, but I've seen real life stuff that would make me not want to be in the hood. Okay, when you come
Mm-hmm.
from that, and I'm not saying I was born and raised in the trenches. I'm not trying to pretend to be all gangster, none. But when you come from that, you don't want to go back to that. That's a lot of people who probably lived in the suburbs or outside the city. Because even people who live in the suburbs, that's one thing about Chicago too. All of the suburbs in Chicago aren't like these glorious Beverly Hill type suburbs either. You have a lot of poor,
Right.
rundown, corrupt suburbs as well, just like Chicago. So it's not like it's glorious right outside Chicago either. So more than likely that comes from somebody who's not anywhere around Chicago. Has probably never been to Chicago. Probably doesn't know anybody from Chicago. But they hear King Von or Little Dirk, and they hear that, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds cool. I kind of want to go there." So people need to stop because people have died. People gone there, and they were on their Takashi 6ix9ine nonsense, and they recording like, "Oh, I'm on O Block," and then you know the people from there, they think, okay, they take it as like a diss, they take it as a sign of disrespect,
Yeah.
and then they address it.
Yeah. I mean, when I was up there in 2015, I mean, I went to Inglewood, but I was just observing. And I was like, it ain't as bad as they wanted to be. I mean, everybody out there was cool. I mean, they knew I was from New York. Yeah, I just gave New Yorkers give off that aura. So I'm from out of town. But I was acting like a tourist. And they were like, all right. I asked some questions and they were very accommodating, but I ain't gonna post up at somebody's house and be like, yo, I'm on Ray's scene and all this.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't doing all that. I ain't got that kind of
Yeah,
time.
please, yeah.
But question, and this is a little unrelated, but did they find out who killed Zach TV? Because I haven't been following that.
From what I know, no. From
Damn
what I
it,
know,
man! It's been like what 8? It's been like what 8 years?
they have
Damn it!
suspects, but I don't believe
Uh,
anybody has been convicted of that yet. No.
that sucks. Shout out to Zach TV. But let's continue. Let's talk about the king. I believe the king of modern day Chicago corruption. The king. I think you know who the king is, but maybe a lot of people don't know who the king is. This is the king. This is the king. This is the emperor. Richard J. Daley. Chicago people know this man
Yes,
well.
sir.
Look at that white supremacist face, boy. Mm. Look at this man. He was a young man while Al Capone was running the city. And this man had politics on lock. Mm, mm, mm. Let's go down to where his career was. Now, what do you know about Mr. Daly from someone who had bird's eye view of this man?
I mean, he's before my time. I don't know if I had a bird's eye like.
But I'm sure
Yeah,
you've
but
heard
yeah, I've heard the
stories.
stories. Yeah, um, yeah, he is people put him. I've heard people say he's like the godfather of the corruption of Chicago. You know, because a lot of
Hmm.
people like to blame Al Capone, and the thing is that people act as if Al Capone is some type of evil genius who was able to evade politics, evade the police, and evade all of this stuff. No, um, a lot of that was because of politicians, corrupt politicians, just like Richard Daley, um, who allowed stuff like that to go on. He was a
Hmm.
notorious anti-black racist. He was a straight notorious anti-black
Hmm.
racist. He did everything he could to undermine black people, to help the segregation and the deprivation of black people economically. This man was, I mean, I could go on a long laundry list of the things that he's done. I think I might have bought him. I think when I made my video about why Chicago is corrupt, I think I mentioned his name, but I'm not sure. But yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
He was one of the biggest people as far as, because if you guys didn't know, I'm sure you got a lot of you all do, but Chicago is an incredibly racially segregated city. Okay. So, and a lot of that was due to his construction. A lot of that, he played a hand in making sure Chicago stayed racially segregated. He did not believe. He
Yep.
believed in, and that's why I'm sorry, I'm all over the place.
Hmm.
That's why
No,
when
it's
you go
cool.
to
It's cool.
Chicago, you'll see pretty much all of the black people. Chicago's like one third black. Chicago, the city itself, is very racially diverse. It's like one third black, about a third Hispanic, and a third white. The black third pretty much only lives in two areas, which is the south side and the west side. And then you have some Hispanics who live kind of over in the west side too, in their own segregated neighborhoods. And then you have white people who live like downtown, or they'll live like up north or whatnot. He was the one who made. He played a big hand in making sure that that stayed the case, where black people and white people live very
Mm,
differently, so the economic resources of the neighborhood could go exclusively to white people.
yeah. And he was a staunch Democrat. Staunch
Oh, of
Democrat.
course.
He loved him. He loved him. Some of the D Pauls. But it's funny that you brought up segregation because this is an excerpt off of Wikipedia that says major construction during Daley's terms in office resulted in O'Hare International Airport, the Sears Tower in McCormick Place, the University of Illinois Chicago, numerous expressways and subway construction projects, and other major Chicago landmarks. O'Hare was a particular point of pride for Daley, while with he and his staff regularly devising occasions to celebrate it. I don't know no people that's going to celebrate an airport, but all right, do what you got to do. It occasioned one of Daley's numerous clashes with community organizer Saul Alinsky. His black neighborhood Woodlawn organization threatened a mass picnic at the airport or crowding of its toilets to press demands for open employment.
Mm.
A mass pissing. Boy,
Yes.
Chicago, man. Yeah, yeah,
Torian
yeah. I got. Yeah.
asked a good question.
Yes,
If he
sir.
was worse than George Wallace, um, I want to say that's a great question. Actually, I kind of want to say yes a little bit. I kind of want to say yes a little bit because of the crime that he allowed. Yeah, he did contribute in the redlining. Yes, which still goes on in Chicago. People say redlining stopped. It hasn't stopped. It's just like low key now. So it still very much so goes on.
Right.
I want to say George Wallace just because he was a before, but I felt like Richard Daley, he took what George Wallace did, because George Wallace was a segregationist. He was an open segregationist as well too, which a lot of
Mhm.
politicians were back in that time. But Richard Daley, I felt like his not only his segregationist views, but his participation in the crime in Chicago as well too. So I kind of want to give like the villain of the Mayor Villain Award to Richard Daley, with him being a close
Yeah.
second. You got some runner-ups. You
Yeah.
got
But
some tough competition in Chicago. Trust me, it's like
yes,
Gotham
sir.
City.
Yes, sir. And here we go. Daley's construction of a modern Chicago rested on the commitment to racial segregation. Housing, highways, and schools were built to serve as barriers between white and black neighborhoods, which Afro just touched on. To revitalize downtown Chicago, Daley worked together with business leaders to push out poor black residents and replace them with middle-class white people. To prevent black people from moving into white neighborhoods, Daley oversaw the building of public housing in the form of high-rise towers like the Robert Taylor homes that he placed within Chicago's black ghettos. Why does that look like a prison?
It pretty much was a prison. It pretty much was a prison, to be honest, and they did that to have a lot of it. Okay, and I touched on this in a video I did before. They did that because they didn't want black people, and they sold it to black people. And this is one of the most notorious things. I'm sorry, but they sold it to black people because they made it seem like it was going to be very affordable and very cheap. And this was what was happening when a lot of the factories and things like that, they were leaving out of Chicago, and it was becoming more difficult. And a lot of white people were leaving Chicago and moving to the suburbs, and they didn't want black people to follow them. So they built up a lot of the townhomes and stuff like that, and the town-rise buildings, and they'd be like, black people, you can live here, it's affordable, you'll all be together. But they pretty much bunch of black people in there, and they said, okay, we're done. They didn't maintain the buildings, the elevators were broken, so you can see how big those buildings were. You literally had people have to take the stairs on a daily basis because the elevators were broken. Leakage, poor sewage, electrical issues. People would get
the drugs,
and that's a thing that helped the drug thing too. A lot of crime was committed during that time because, as we all know, that crime is connected to economics. So when you put people in there and then you were taking their economic prosperity away, yes, exactly, the white flight thing. That was their solution. They sold the white flight thing, and it was all like, okay, well, we want black people to stay in this very specific area. We don't want them to move out. They sold it to it. There was other reasons too, but they sold that the dream of black people. Oh, that's going to be great. You're going to live here. It's going to be affordable and everything. And then they completely pulled out all of the resources damn near from it. So, but he was, they knew that was going to happen too. When I'm sorry to cut you off, but when you talk to politicians, they act like, oh yeah, we thought this was going to be a great idea, and then we had no idea where it went wrong. They knew exactly what they were going to do. They knew they were going to build those buildings. They were going to pretty much shove all black people in those buildings, have them live in a very confined part of the city, and then they were going to strip the resources from those buildings. They knew that.
Right. Now, was this before? This was after when they started building up those project houses for the people that whose families were in the war, right?
I'm sorry.
Like, you know how the original projects were for families who had family members that went into the military during the wars and they couldn't keep up with the houses, so they put them in these project homes until they came back, and then they would go, I guess, reclaim their houses. So this, I'm guessing, was before that, right? I mean, after it. Because I know they weren't building these big ass, prison looking things for these families.
Yeah, this did happen after you mean World War II? Yeah, it happened after that. It was it was
and Cabrini Green, yes,
Tori.
Oh, okay. Cabrini Green was another notorious.
Am I familiar with that? Yeah, but they dismantled that. They just like, if you go there now, it won't be there. All of that stuff.
Yeah, it's just isn't it now like
vacant land, pretty much, for the most part, just open vacant land. To be honest, for the most part.
Yeah, weren't they supposed to do something with that? They were going to build like little neighborhoods there.
They promised that they were going to do stuff with the land, build communities and things like that with the land, and that never came to fruition. So
yeah, and didn't Good Times modeled that neighborhood off Cabrini Green, right?
The show Good Times.
Yeah.
I've heard of that. I have heard of that. I don't know that for a fact, though, actually.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, let's continue because there's more. He was a nefarious SOB. Here we go. Many were located along a single street in the ghetto of Chicago South Side, which became known as the State Street Corridor. It had the densest concentration of public housing in the nation. Daley was also responsible for routing the Dan Ryan Expressway along the neighborhood's traditional racial divide, so that it separated the State Street Corridor from the white neighborhoods of the South Side. Until the late 1960s in municipal elections, Daley nevertheless enjoyed 70% support within the black community. Like other ethnic groups in Chicago, black voters offered party loyalty and votes for political patronage.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's that. I will admit that that is a big problem in Chicago. You have people who will are diehard loyalists to the Democratic Party. Are like
Mhm.
diehard loyalists to the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna bring up Cooley High in a second, Tori, and we're gonna bring them up. From late 1965 to early 1967, Mayor Daley was confronted by the Chicago Freedom Movement, led by Martin Luther King, to improve conditions in the black ghettos. On the one hand, the Chicago Civil Rights Movement formed to fight for better schools. On the other hand, it advocated open housing in Chicago. The campaign that became known as the Chicago Freedom Movement was led by Martin Luther King, who tried to employ the tactics of peaceful marches like he had in the South. Daley, with the help of black political leaders who did not want to break with Daley's political machine, and the local press avoided violent confrontations. In mid-August 1966, the Summit Agreement was achieved through a series of meetings. Among other things, it brought about the creation of the Leadership Council for Metropolitan Open Communities. While this is a contentious issue, the Chicago Freedom Movement is widely considered a failure or best a draw. Damn.
Yeah, Dr. King did come to Chicago. Dr. King did try to, because Chicago, the real estate in Chicago, the land in Chicago is very valuable, and they know that, which is why they try to keep black people from it, which is why they don't want black people to be around certain areas, which is why they pretty much lock black people, and it's very segregated in Chicago. And
Mhm.
especially during that time, black people weren't allowed to live pretty much anywhere else. So Dr. King did have his movement. Dr. King actually did come to Chicago, which is, if you guys have seen that photo of Dr. King getting hit in the head with a rock, that was in Chicago. Dr. King actually did come to Chicago to fight for fair housing because black people didn't have any fair housing or fair schools. Public schools were very segregated as well too in Chicago. Um, and
Yeah.
to be honest, as in all due respect to Dr. King and his movement, it still is to this very day. Still is incredibly segregated. Both the housing and the schools are very segregated in Chicago.
Mm,
So that's why they say
cool.
it's a
All right.
failure because it didn't work out the way they planned for it to.
All right. It says here, Daly discouraged motion picture and television filming on location in Chicago after an episode of M Squad aired on January 30th, 1959, depicted an officer of Chicago Police Department taking bribes. This policy lasted until the end of his term and would be reversed under later Mayor Jane Byrne when the Blues Brothers was filmed in Chicago. However, during his time in office, movies including Cooley High and others were filmed in Chicago, probably on the sneak or a nice little kickback.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies that are filmed in Chicago.
Oh yeah, everybody loves to go film
Yeah,
in Chicago now. All these Batman movies are in
yeah,
Chicago
yeah.
now.
They love. I don't, there is something about Chicago. It's something.
I think it's you know what it is? I think it's the way your city is shaped.
Yeah, Chicago does have.
Like,
It is shaped very interesting. It does have interesting and unique architecture too. Um,
mhm,
so it could be that. It could, I'm assuming it could be that. Uh,
yeah.
plus, I mean, everybody doesn't want to film in New York. You got all the Marvel movies being filmed there, so it's like,
Actually, that's actually a
that
lie.
was a joke. Really?
Oh, I know. No, I know. I mean, the first Avengers was filmed in Cleveland,
Mm.
but I mean, it's nice to have New York as a motif. But I mean, I see all these shows in Chicago. Chicago. I mean, the amount of money that's probably passed through them hands over the years.
Mhm.
But
It's
it
a
is
lot of
what
money
it is.
getting made in Chicago. a huge
Mm-hmm.
amount of money getting made in Chicago. For the people coming over here, they're paying for the rights to film. You got visitors coming over here. A lot of people come to Chicago to visit and to do business and
Yeah.
things like that, which is so sad, to be honest, because it shows Chicago makes a lot of money, and then when you actually go to Chicago, you can see where that money goes. Chicago uses that money
Right.
just it uses that money so disproportionately. When you go to like the south side, when you
Mm-hmm.
go to the west side, and when you go to these poor neighborhoods, the poor black, or really the black neighborhoods in Chicago for the most part, you think honestly that Chicago doesn't make any money. You would see the roads, you would see the vacant houses and the buildings, and you would see the lack of economic prosperity in the community, and you would honestly think that Chicago doesn't make that much money. But to be honest, just based off of the traffic tickets alone that Chicago gives, which is a boatload of traffic tickets, they make a ton of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna get to that soon because I got to ask you
He
about
said
that.
Empire was shot in
But
Chicago,
yes, most
and Jussie Smollett was jumped in Chicago too. Didn't you guys know that?
allegedly, allegedly by some Nigerians. Nigerians, you got to take that L and white folk. But anyway, yes, most of the MC movies, yes, they are shot in Fayetteville, about 30 miles south of Chicago of Atlanta, on a nice sound stage. And Tyler Perry got his studio over there in DeKalb and can't get no run. So shows you how Atlanta politics works down here, but that's another subject for another day. The year 1968. We all know what happened in 1968. On January 27, 1968, Daily informed President Johnson that Robert Kennedy had met him and asked for his support in the upcoming Democrat primaries, which he declined. He also got the president to accept an offer to either stay in the Democratic primaries or to be nominated as Hubert Humphrey's vice president at the DNC. Daley and Johnson were also going to use Kennedy's run for president to help this plan and feed Kennedy's ego by making him think there was a revolution in the party as well. In April, Daley was castigated by many of his sharp rhetoric in the aftermath of rioting that took place after King's assassination. Displeased with what he saw as an overcautious police response to the rioting, Daley chastised Police Superintendent James B. Conglisk and subsequently related that conversation at a City Hall press conference as follows. He said, quote, I said to him very emphatically and very definitively that an order be issued by him immediately to delete any arsonist or anyone with a Molotov cocktail in his hand because they're potential deleters, and to shoot or maim or cripple anyone looting.
Yeah, and I played the clip of him saying I did a video on the corruption of Chicago. Shameless plug, by the way, but
No, that's
uh,
fine. Put that link in the description.
I
Put
would
that
have
link
to
in the
find
chat. Let
it.
them go
But
see that afterwards.
yeah, and he said that, and the thing is that black people weren't doing that. This was during, I think they called it the Holy Week, because Dr. King was assassinated on the 4th of April, um, in
Right.
1968, and this the like week right after that, then black people started uprising. But black people in Chicago didn't have Molotov cocktails burning buildings down, but that was the like a code word, because he couldn't say black at that point. Um he couldn't say eliminate, you know, the black people. I find it funny how we're talking like the 90s cartoons, and they were like, I'm gonna eliminate you, we know what they meant, but now we got to talk like
I'm
that
gonna
now.
destroy
I'm
you.
gonna destroy
I'm
you.
gonna destroy you.
Yeah. um but black people weren't doing that. But the thing is that black people were, some were rioting, some were protesting. But the thing is that Richard Daley was just a notorious racist, anti-black racist. So he was all like, just shoot him, kill him, up, um, bill him. That's what I meant to say. Sorry about that.
Yeah, delete
Yep.
them. Delete them.
So
Yeah, but yes, happy news. Shortly after 2 p.m. on December 20th, 1976, Daley collapsed on the city's near north side while on his way to lunch, which he probably didn't pay for. He was rushed to the office of his private physician at 900 North Michigan Avenue. It was confirmed that Daley had suffered a massive heart attack and he was pronounced gone at 2:55 p.m. He was 74 years old, and we don't care about when his funeral was. So that's the emperor of Chicago corruption in the modern 20th century. And thank you, Will Betts, for the super chat. I mean, sorry, for the Cash App. Thank you so much. So, how do y'all feel about Richard Joseph Daly?
I feel like
And shout out to Kelsey Grammer. He did a very good portrayal of him in that limited series Boss.
I gotta check that out, but I feel like Richard Daley
Torian, you ain't shit.
was there a parade thrown to celebrate? There should have been.
There
It should have been. If there was, I wasn't alive to go there.
Yeah, we were not alive.
That was before my time, but there should have been. But what my opinion on
y'all probably still would have had if there was a blizzard.
you said what?
Y'all probably still would have had it if there was a blizzard.
Probably we should have. I'm gonna have to ask my grandparents
Yes,
about
sir.
that if they did.
But what were you saying now?
But Richard Daley, I mean, he is what people here call like the grandfather of pretty much the corruption. Now, George Wallace, you can argue that he's more of the grandfather because I mean, to be honest, ever since Chicago was Chicago, Chicago's been racist towards our people. So you can argue a lot of people are, but Richard Daley, I feel like takes the cake because the elevation of the crime in the turning a blind eye to the crime done by Al Capone and his folks, and the mafia and everything, and then not doing anything about that. Hold on, let me see.
Yeah.
Because black people really, at that point, it wasn't really a lot of, I will say, crime going on, but it wasn't too much of the. Let me find the best way to word this. Actually, okay, let me frame it this way. One of the biggest reasons, actually the biggest reason why Chicago is so bad specifically for black people is because of the racial segregation, which allows the politician and allows the city to pretty much directly give the money in one city, in one single city. It allows the politicians and the city to directly point the money and give the resources to certain segments of the city and not other segments of the city, just like redlining, which never really ended. It became quote unquote illegal, but it never really ended. And that's redlining is super easy when you have cities that are segregated, and you still have cities that are segregated, and you still have redlining that is going on. You still have disproportionate economic funds that are just dispersed throughout the city. So I would say George Wallace as well too, but their works on segregating the city was enough, because after that, then you didn't have politicians that were so much so as openly segregationists. But at that point, the damage had been done. By that time, the city is already so incredibly segregated. All of the politicians have to do after him is just make sure it stays that way, which they have done so successfully. So that's really the main reason, because if you come to Chicago, and you said you've been here, and you said you've been to Inglewood, right? Okay, that's a black neighborhood on the south side. But when you come to Chicago, if you go to the south side, here's what I would recommend you guys do. Don't be foolish about this. Don't be on your Tekashi 6ix9ine nonsense where you go into O Block or 63rd and you trying to, like, oh, I'm out here. What they going to do? Don't do that now. Don't go to any land, any place, and disrespect the people. But what I would recommend you do, because I've seen it all, but I would recommend, if you were coming here for the very first time, you should go to every side of Chicago. You should go to the south side, the west side, the downtown, and you should go up north. And you should see the disproportionate amount of funds and resources that the city gives to other people. You should also see the ticketing too. A lot of the ticketing, and I know this personally myself, a lot of the ticketing goes to the blacker sides of the neighborhood. that goes to the poor side of the neighborhood. A lot of the red light cameras, the street cameras, it's so bad to where if you are speeding 6 miles above the speed limit, only 6 miles above the speed limit, you will get a speeding ticket. If the speeding camera catches you going 6 miles above the speed limit, you can get a ticket for that. But those cameras,
Hmm.
those I guess radars or whatever they call them, they don't exist. They don't really have those in the north side, in the sides where the white people are. They don't have I don't know if you use the W word, but they don't really have that over there. So all of the tickets and stuff like that. Now you have tickets everywhere, but a lot of the red light cameras and stuff like that they be giving people tickets for, a lot of that is um on the black sides of Chicago, from my
Yeah,
experience.
that's crazy. And they'll ticket you even during a blizzard. They'll ticket
Yes,
you.
yes. And don't get me wrong, parking in Chicago is just a beast anywhere you go to.
Oh, I know. No, I know. New York is the same way, but that's where the parking garages make all their money.
Yes, yes, indeed.
This
So
is great. I appreciate this conversation. Let's move on because when Daley died, his man got in. Mr. Belandic. Mr. Belandic. And he was part of that Richard Daley political machine. Are the detours horrible in Chicago?
are the what?
Detours.
Are the detours? I'm not sure. What do you?
Like if you know, like if it's like a main street, but they maneuver y'all around.
Oh yeah. You mean like the side roads and
Mm.
everything? If you mean like horrible, do you mean like
Yeah.
as far as the condition of the street? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. They have potholes deep enough for you to put a body in Chicago.
Mm. Say it
The
again.
potholes are deep enough for you to put a body in. A lot of damage is done to a lot of different cars in Chicago, and they never really fix this. There's a lot of construction, but it seems like the construction never goes
One
anywhere.
second.
Surprisingly, well, unsurprisingly, if you're from here, but yeah, the detours are really bad. The alleys are look like war zones. The alleys look like people have just been throwing grenades down the alley and watching it explode. You know, people have to literally like drive like literally under 10 miles an hour because they don't want to damage their car. That's how bad it is.
That's crazy.
It's really the main streets that are somewhat okay with the condition. But there's always construction. It's just like the construction just doesn't meet the parts of where it does actually need to be.
That's oh, Chicago. Oh, I hear anything. Say something.
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
All right, good. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. All right. Yeah, I had to charge my other one. All right. I'm going back a little old school with this, but that's good. But yes, let's talk about Miss Byrne and Mr. Belandic. Now, Belandic, he succeeded, I believe he succeeded Daley after he died. Yes. So we're going to talk about the 1979 election, which was very pivotal in the history of Chicago. Now, for those who don't know, that was the year Chicago had not one, but two historic snowfalls. Now, the first one, it happened, I think they got like 26 inches. Ain't nobody never saw nothing like that. And they kept telling everybody in the city, hey, nothing, it's not going to be as bad as they're forecasting. It's not going to be that bad. And then they got 2 feet dropped on them. Okay, it happens. The sanitation people, they were more concerned with taking care of the aldermans, like the aldermans that they like. They were the taking care. Let's just call it what it is. They were taking care of the white neighborhoods first and left the black folks to where they were.
Yep.
I think it was about 3 days later, folks. 3 days. They got another foot plus. So just imagine your neighborhood got about 3 feet of snow if they didn't plow it yet. And then the mayor gets on Belandic saying, move your cars off the road so the plows can get through. Sir, nobody can move their cars in 3 feet of snow. So these sanitation workers were plowing roads, crashing into cars because they couldn't see. And he tried, of course, Belandic tried to say, oh, it's not us, it's somebody else's fault, but you're the mayor, you're the head of the table, you have to take responsibility for it. Now Jane Byrne was already salty because they kicked her out of her position, and she said, I'm gonna run for mayor, screw it, I might win. And she ran on a platform of knocking Belandic for his response to the blizzard and its cousin. So it says, months after her firing as head of the Consumer Affairs Department, Byrne challenged Belandic in the 1979 Democratic mayoral primary, the real contest in heavily Democratic Chicago, because, of course, we already know no Republican's going to run Chicago. We know this. Officially announcing her mayoral campaign in August 1977, Byrne partnered with Chicago journalist and political consultant Don Rose, who served as a campaign manager. At first, political observers believed her to have little chance of winning. A memorandum inside the Belandic campaign said it should portray her as a shrill, charging, vindictive person, and nothing makes a woman look worse. However, the Chicago blizzard of 1979 in January paralyzed the city and caused Belandic to be seen as an ineffective leader. Oh, Messy Jesse endorsed Byrne. Of course he did. Many Republican voters voted in the Democratic primary to beat Belandic. Infuriated voters in the North Side and Northwest Side retaliated against Belandic for the Democrat Party slating of only South Side candidates for the mayor, clerk, and treasurer. The outgoing city clerk, John C. Marson, was from the Northwest Side. These four factors combined to give Byrne a 51-49 victory over Belandic in the primary. Positioning herself as a reformer, Byrne then won the main election with 82.1% of the vote, still the largest margin in a Chicago mayoral election. So Snow changed leadership. Shout out to cool. And shout out to y'all.
Yeah, I guess. Thank God for that. But that just shows the lack of leadership, the lack of proper leadership in Chicago. When we do have these weather catastrophes, a lot of people don't know how to deal with it. A lot of the politicians don't equip the people properly with it. They do don't panic, it's not that big of a deal, it won't. Now, of course, all of this was before my time, so even my parents were kids at that time, so I'm like, so I don't have like a lot of firsthand, like I can talk to my parents about their experience dealing with that politically from like a political point of view, but I will say that does happen often with Chicago because
now
Chicago has faced multiple blizzards, not as bad as that before, but Chicago's faced multiple blizzards, multiple extreme heat waves too. Well, a lot of people talk about the Chicago when it comes to the blizzards. Chicago's heat waves can get like 100 degrees, 100 plus degrees, 110 degrees. I remember a few years ago, it was like 110 degrees every day for a week. Like yes, it gets incredibly hot with the heat waves coming out here. A lot of it is very dangerous too. So Chicago's weather is like it can be 100 plus degrees in the summertime, and then it can be like freezing below zero with a blizzard coming in the wintertime. So it's crazy out here. But it does show, if you are a politician and you've been here long enough, you should be able to prepare the constituency. You should be able to prepare for catastrophes, for disasters and stuff like that, or you should at least take them serious. But in that situation, he didn't take those people serious, because last time they were telling the last few times we had blizzards here, they were telling people, hey, there's going to be a blizzard. So what they were doing is they were like having like the neighborhood things. I don't know what they're called. Excuse me for losing a term. They were having like neighborhood things where they were giving people food and stuff like that. When they like, okay, You might be snowed in. You might,
Oh, emergency
yeah,
supplies.
exactly. You might be snowed in. So let me give you that. Let me give you toiletries. Let me give you some of the things that you would need. And it was really on a grassroots level where we did that, but it
Right.
wasn't the politicians. Let me not give them credit for it, but yeah, because people are aware of that. But politicians don't take that serious. It's really the grassroots people in the land that really that really prepare the people for the conditions. The politicians
Yeah.
don't.
Now I have a question before we get into Harold
Torian Rain
Washington.
is funny as hell.
Were y'all?
Don't y'all gotta check
He
his
is.
out.
He
Y'all
is.
check his channel out.
Yeah. Were y'all cooking deep dish on the asphalt?
Um, no, no, we were not. Okay. One of the things about deep dish, and I like deep dish. One of the things
Yes,
about
sir.
deep dish is that that's not Chicago's only pizza or even Chicago's main pizza, to be honest. Yeah, I know it's surprising because it's a signature pizza,
Yeah.
but it's not Chicago's main pizza. Most of the time, when Chicagoans go to get a pizza, it's not deep dish, to be honest. Deep dish is like
What is it?
almost like a delicacy. It's something that people
Right.
don't really eat often. Most of the time, when we get pizza, it's like a big thin crust pizza, and then we cut it into squares.
I've heard of
So
that.
yeah, if you seen that, like the cutting the pizza into a bunch of
Like the
squares,
Detroit
huh?
style. Like the Detroit
Yeah,
style. Like the
yeah,
Detroit
exactly. Well,
style.
it's really Chicago style. They call it,
Hey, hey, hey.
but yeah, it is like that. Yeah.
Cool, cool. All right, let's get into Howard Washington because I know you gotta bounce out in a few. But let's get to the black man, the one that everybody loves, Mr. Harold Washington.
Yes, sir.
That is the face of a Negro you don't play with. So it says in the February 83 Democrat mayoral primary, more than 100,000 new voters registered to vote, led by a coalition that included the Latino reformed gang Young Lords, led by Jose Chacha Jimenez. On the north and northwest sides, the incoming mayor, Jane Byrne, led, and future mayor Richard M. Daley, son of the late mayor, finished a close second. Howard Washington had massive majorities on the south and west side. Southwest side voters overwhelmingly supported Daley. Washington won with 37% of the vote versus 33 for Byrne and 30 for Daley. Uh, da, 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 da. Although winning the Democrat primary is normally considered tantamount to election in heavily Democratic Chicago, after his primary victory, Washington found that his Republican opponent, former state legislator Bernard Epton, earlier considered a nominal standing, was supported by many high-ranking Democrats in the award organizations, including the chairman of the Cook County Democratic Party, Alderman Edward Flordlack. So when the black man wants to go up and run something, yeah, his own party will turn on him. Mm,
Yeah. Which goes to show that there's
damn.
no loyalty in a political party.
Yes.
Harold Washington shows that there was no loyalty in the political party. Racially, they always are like it's Democrats versus Republicans, and we're loyal to the Democratic side, the leftist side, or the Republican side, or conservative side. But ultimately, it's just the white side. It doesn't matter. You will see a Democrat switch on another Democrat quick as hockey sticks. I don't know if I can say that here. I don't know. Um,
Hell, you can
oh
say
yeah,
hell.
fast as hell. You would see that happen if they're racially different. If it's a white politician trying to support a black politician, you will see the switch up and the disloyalty within the Democratic Party.
Mm, yeah. And let's see. Are you familiar with Deuceable Park?
Yeah, I've been there. Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It sucks that he died while he was in a
A
meeting.
lot of people allegedly,
Mhm.
and speaking of his voice, a lot of people feel like I don't know if the term for set up, I don't know if that's the term for it, but a lot of people feel as if um his death was his passing away was suspicious. A lot of people feel like there was foul play involved in that because he was literally in the middle of a
Right.
meeting. He was an older man, but he didn't really have any incredibly chronic like terminal illness or anything like that. It's not like he was at his fourth stages of cancer or his lungs collapsed every now and then. He was a relatively able-bodied gentleman for his age, and then bam, it was just over
Mhm.
for him in the middle of a meeting. A lot of people feel as if there was some foul play involved in that, allegedly. I'm just stating what a lot of
Allegedly, yeah.
people feel.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading here. They said that he might have had cocaine in his system. They had to test his body twice. Damn.
Could have been, yep.
Yeah. But they said both times it was just, the fact that he was 284 pounds when he died.
He was I will give him that he was overweight. He wasn't hugely overweight though. Because people
Right.
make it seem like he was obese. He wasn't like he wasn't like that. He was, a lot of politicians are overweight.
Mhm.
That's I don't think that was the reason. He wasn't like no
Yeah.
hugely fat person at all. Not to you know pass the way he did. And I'm
Yeah.
just saying what a lot of people suspect. I'm not saying anything that somebody else hasn't said. I'm not saying anything for a fact. You know, all we know is the fact that he was in the meeting and then he transitioned. But that's it. That's it. Is all I'm just giving an an alternate, you know,
Viewpoint.
viewpoint of exactly of what could have
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, the history of Chicago politics.
Yeah.
It's a lesson, folks. It's a lesson on understanding how agendas are very important and how you can galvanize an entire city based on your agenda. Because you saw how Richard Daley had that political machine running for damn near, what was it? He had it for like 20 years. He had a little hiccup when Jane Byrne got in, and then Harold got in. Now his son was running the city for a while. Ironically, he had another major blizzard on his hands. So, I mean, Jesus.
Yeah. The blizzards are really bad out here. Are very bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And even now his other son was running with Obama for a little while. So that tree's deep, blood is deep. But yeah, Chicago. If Chicago can get on one accord, I mean, black folks in Chicago, man, they could do. We could scare the hell out this country, because that would be a great haven for people to go up and have strategy meetings underground.
You
In a city that big, you can't find them. You ain't gonna be able to
you know
find
what's
them. Niggas will be
interesting
hiding under the bridges.
about that is actually that's one of the things that kept me busy today. I've been actually busy today, doing a lot. I've been very busy today. I've had a long day today. I've had a long day today, bro. But I'm actually busy. I have a plan set up. I have something that I'm working towards that I can't say um for a few
Yeah, don't be
reasons.
giving away no secrets on
Huh?
here. Don't be giving away
No,
no
no, no, no,
secrets
no,
on
no.
here.
I can't say for a few reasons, but I am working on something that hopefully soon will come to fruition, and it will change the economics in Chicago. So that is a project that I
Cool.
am working on, you know, to the best of my ability. It's not that easy, but I'm working on it, and I felt like today was a pretty good step. I know I'm people like, what could he be talking about? But it's coming.
Don't
It's
worry about
coming.
it. When it
It's
come when
yeah,
he shows it to you, then you'll
yeah.
know.
So but yeah, it definitely
But that's
does
good.
take people on the ground to change the situation.
Mm-hmm.
It takes people on the ground to change
Yeah.
the situation.
Grassroots are very important if you want to affect change.
Yeah.
M. Flournoy, hello, hello, hello. But yes, Afro, thank you so much for coming in and sharing briefly about Chicago
I
politics.
appreciate you having me.
That's
I really
great.
do. We got to
No
do this
problem.
again.
So what? Yes, we will. And shout out to Deep Dish. Shout out to Deep Dish. Shout out to Deep Dish.
Did you see I did a video where we were talking about popcorn. There's this Chicago. Well, it's not really Chicago. It's like in Calumet City, which is right outside Chicago,
Mhm.
like 30 minutes or so. No, not Calumet City. West Holland, South Holland. Which is
Mhm.
about 30 minutes away. It's really good though. Really good popcorn, a lot of different flavors. But they have a deep dish flavor of popcorn.
Do they
I
ship?
believe they do. Yeah, they do ship.
Okay, you might have to
Yeah, I'm
send
gonna
me
have to
that
get you.
link.
They
I
got
might
a
have to do a taste. I might have to do a taste test.
they got a Jamaican jerk too. So I'm all like, wow, let me. I know that's his thing right there.
Everything does not need to be jerked, folks. Jerk is
No.
preservation. It's not only for
Okay.
flavoring. Jesus Christ. Should never get white people jerk.
Yeah, now everything's got to be jerk now. Watch, wait for the jerk
Oh
desserts to
my
come out.
God.
Wait for the jerk desserts.
How did I go to a southern barbecue restaurant? They had jerk on the menu. That's not even
I don't
cool.
know. When I grew up, there wasn't only Jamaicans had things to do with jerk. Nobody was touching jerk except
True.
Jamaicans. Now everybody wants to have a jerk something.
Everybody want to jerk. Everybody want to jerk something.
Yeah.
They gonna start jerking desserts.
Soon,
I probably gave white people their
there's gonna be
idea. I
jerk
probably gave
candy
white
and
people the next idea.
jerk cake or whatever the case may be. But
Oh God.
you should try the deep.
Yes,
I haven't
but
tried the deep dish popcorn. I might have to try it.
no, send me the link. I will go buy it and do a
Yeah.
taste test.
Okay.
And I will blame you if it sucks.
Okay. You're probably gonna be hating anyway. You're probably gonna eat
No,
it.
you don't know. I'm very
nasty. And then
objective.
when the camera's over,
Hey,
you
if you saw my ice cream episode, I was very objective.
okay.
I was very objective.
Okay. All right.
I know she was a black woman and I support her. Shout out to So Cream Malicious, but I was very objective in there.
Which is a good thing.
So-
Which you should be when you're reviewing things. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I know New Yorkers have a lot of New York bias because y'all want to believe you're the best. So I just say,
Yeah, I know we do, but they elected a mayor who was a cop, so New York cannot say anything for the next 20
well,
years. to me.
Chicago's very familiar with that. So
Right. I mean, y'all gotta. I'm gonna leave Uncle Thunderbird alone. I'm gonna leave her alone. I'll get her in 2 weeks.
please do.
I'll get her in 2 weeks. But thank you again, Afro, for coming in. Thank you for everyone that came through for this impromptu stream. And yes, for Chicago, salute to y'all. I know y'all got a big wrestling show there this weekend, so traffic might be a little crazy. Be safe out there.
Yeah.
And I know it's Labor Day weekend, and I know the white supremacists they're licking their chops to report how many people got shot over the weekend.
I'm glad you bring that up too. That's one thing I'm wanted to touch on. I know we're not talking. Well, we kind of are talking about the politics because the politics and the crime go hand in hand, really. But oftentimes around the week, the holidays, especially during the summer holidays,
Mhm.
that's when a lot of the crime takes a big spike. It's just this huge spike
Right.
out of nowhere, really, and almost no suspects are caught anytime. It's like 100 eliminations, 100 passings away, if you know what I mean, and no suspects are caught. Oh,
Never.
year after year after year after year. I just did a report where there was a shooter who came from some suburb an hour away to Chicago and Inglewood and then shot up a park. Luckily, did not hit anybody, but they caught him, found thousands of ammunition, like rounds in his vehicle.
Right.
So they do that. They come over, they do their little shooting and their destroying of people, and then they go back. They go back to outside of Chicago. They go back there.
Did you see that video of that guy who showed like the cop putting on the makeup and stuff and the mask to act like he was a black person?
You said what? Can I show it to you?
No, did you see
Yeah,
that
I
video?
did. Yeah.
Okay. Now, last thing before you go, are you familiar with heyjackass.com?
No, I'm not sure. No.
Okay, so it's basically a database. I think it's a white supremacist who does it, but he basically details every week every shooting that happens in Chicago.
Not
Yeah.
surprised.
So Yeah. So I'm just curious to see how he's going to report it this weekend,
I'm gonna have to check that
because he
website
usually
out. I
starts
didn't know
from
about it.
Thursday. Yeah, he usually starts from Thursday to about Monday. So yeah, that's going to be it. It's very interesting, to say the
Mm.
least. But I appreciate you coming through and talking with us, and yeah, and success on whatever you're building.
I'm trying, but thank you, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you having me. We
Yes,
have
sir.
to do this again.
Yes, sir. So please, yes, and please donate to this man's Cash App. And if you're not subscribed there, please go subscribe, because he does a lot of good work.
I try to do my best, and I appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir. Yes. So everyone, take care, stay safe out